So the Commission on First Nations and Métis People was announced in November of 2001 in response to concerns raised about the treatment of First Nations and Métis people by the criminal justice system. In particular, the Lawrence Wagner and Rodney Naistus deaths raised concerns about police conduct towards First Nations and Métis people. And of further concern was the unacceptable overrepresentation of First Nations and Métis people in the criminal justice system. In response to this situation, J. Willie Littlechild was appointed chair along with 4 other commissioners: Joe Quaisance, my colleague, who's former chief of the Saskatoon Tribal Council, Irene Fraser, a Métis grandmother, and a Prince Albert lawyer by the name of Hugh Herodance, and myself. It's interesting of late when you look in the readings about polygamy. I thought maybe that the commission was must be like having a multi-partner marriage. And communication was incredibly critical in this forum, because we came to the commission talking different languages and having different perspectives. The one thing like a marriage, I'm sure it was, is that we didn't have anybody who wanted to take orders. And that's so similar to having a marriage. Our commission was directed through a set of terms of reference that responded to justice issues. We were to respond to justice issues, particularly of the First Nations and Métis people of Saskatchewan. We were to consider all components of the justice system, but not limited to those components, and to make effective, efficient, and financially responsible reforms. So as been said, our commission, although not royal, was certainly broad-based. And we were to be forward-looking and solution-focused. So there was little I felt when coming to the commission that we weren't asked to do and weren't asked to look at. And you'll see from the report that we were as much social justice oriented as we were criminal justice oriented. There were 4 partners were identified in the terms of reference. There was the Government of Saskatchewan, the Government of Canada, the Federation of Saskatchewan Indians, and the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan. We struck a vision as a commission that we wanted to promote Meo Wekotowin, which is one community. We wanted to promote working together to create a healthy, just, prosperous, and safe Saskatchewan. And we created a mission, and the mission was to create change and to make a difference. And we did that by articulating that we wanted to listen to people. We wanted inclusive participation. We wanted to build relationships. We wanted to promote respect and change. We wanted to recognize successes, things that already worked, and we wanted to make recommendations for future justice reform. Now, I repeat these because they set the framework for the values and the culture that our commission promoted. Notice, too, that they echo many of the tenets of restorative justice: respect for social values, accountability of the offender, repairing of relationships, participation of all victim, youth, family, and community. I would provide that the process or how the Commission chose to do business is as vital as the end product that we produced. Commissions provide a forum for expression of public opinion. Paul Chartrand, in one of our expert dialogues, said to us, if commissions do nothing else, they think out loud. And I think through our process that we did do that. I think they also provide an opportunity for discussion about topics that are not otherwise discussed in an open forum. We chose a process that sought out guidance from those affected, that listened to those who had advice to give, that sought out partners, both organizationally and communities, and built relationships. These relationships are necessary in the restoration of balance and harmony between our 2 communities. A stakeholders group was formed representing a cross-section of folks knowledgeable and passionate about justice issues. Many of these people are here today, and they should be acknowledged for the contribution they made as they provided us as a commission with valuable direction. The process of dialogues that we undertook was created to begin building relationships and begin to create an environment in which reformative change could occur. It was obvious to us if the environment that allowed those people who were making decisions wasn't changed, that the people who were in the position to make change couldn't do it. So we were there to create the environment within which change could happen. Examples of this are conversations began between people who had previously never communicated or who had avoided communicating with each other. This was in cities. This was between reserves and municipalities. This was between non-status and status communities that lived side by side. We found organizations starting to collaborate, to share strengths, to serve their clients better instead of competing and seeing it only from a dollar sense. We saw relationships developing between people and organizations. We saw the North reaching out and the South responding because they have similar needs but different experiences and different tools to share. We saw partnerships developing out of shared interests and common goals. We saw healing beginning as people shared their life stories and were heard. We saw meetings take place between officials at all levels of government that had never occurred before, both in Ottawa and Saskatchewan, including leaders of both the First Nations and Métis communities. And we saw youth that were given a voice and included in a meaningful way. Concern for and about youth was a major theme throughout the dialogues. Youth were consulted, and I wish to refer you to an appendix in the document. It's Appendix 13 in Volume 1, pages A81 to 85. These pages contain elements of a proposed child and youth action plan. But most importantly, when you read them, they contain the voices of the youth. It's their ideas and their suggestions for action that they believed would make a difference. Although these youth are not part of the formal recommendations, they do contain valuable information worthy of review by anybody providing services to youth. The overarching theme of the final report is to see justice return to the community. This report was written for individuals, then for communities, and then for governments. So chapter by chapter, the report unveils direction and recommendations for all levels of government, Saskatchewan, Canada, the First Nations and Métis, to change the role of government from the provider of services and the decision maker to being a facilitator of returning justice to the community. And I think with that, I've burned up my 15 minutes, and I'll turn this over to Joe Quaisance.